Loretta Hamilton was on her knees, scrubbing marble floors when she heard a voice that stopped her heart. "Excuse me, could you?" The words died in the air. She looked up slowly, her wet rag still in her gloved hands, her maid's uniform damp with cleaning solution, and she met the eyes of the boy she had raised. Except Adrian Blackwell wasn't a boy anymore. He stood in the doorway of his own Bel Air mansion, frozen, staring at the 58-year-old black woman kneeling on his floor like he'd seen a ghost. 23 years. She'd watched him on magazine covers, on the news, accepting awards for his tech company. She'd watched him become one of the youngest billionaires in America. She'd watched from a distance, from the shadows, from the life she'd been left with when he walked away. "Loretta?" His voice cracked on her name. She stood up slowly, her knees protesting, and smoothed down her maid's uniform. "Mr. Blackwell," she said quietly, professionally. "I didn't realize you'd be home today. I was told you were in San Francisco until—" "Don't." He stepped closer, his face a mixture of shock and something that looked like pain. "Don't call me that." "Don't. Why are you? What are you doing here?" She gestured to the bucket of cleaning supplies. "Working," she said simply. "Same as anyone else." "Working?" He looked around like he was seeing the mansion for the first time. You're the new maid? The one the service sent?" She nodded. "How long?" His voice was tight. "How long have you been doing this?" 6 years, Loretta answered. "Ever since." She stopped. Some stories are too painful to tell standing in a marble foyer with your whole life packed into the space between you. "Ever since what?" Adrian demanded. "Loretta, what happened?" "I sent you money. Every month for 10 years, I sent." "I never cashed those checks," she said quietly. The silence that followed was deafening. "Why?" he whispered. Loretta looked at this man, this brilliant, successful, powerful man who used to be the scared 8-year-old boy she pulled out of the foster system. The boy she raised in a one-bedroom apartment in South Central LA. The boy she worked 3 jobs to put through private school. The boy who stopped calling when he got his first taste of success. "Because you don't owe me anything," she said. "You never did. That's not Loretta. You raised me. You sacrificed everything. And you made something of yourself," she interrupted. That was the point. That was always the point. Adrian ran his hand through his hair, the same gesture he'd done as a teenager when he was stressed about exams. You let me think you were fine. You let me believe you were okay while you were cleaning other people's houses." "I am fine," she lied. "You're working as a maid in my house," he shouted. "You're God, Loretta. How did this happen? How did I not know?" "Because you stopped looking," she thought. "Because you built a new life and I wasn't part of it." But she didn't say that. Instead, she picked up her bucket. "I should finish the upstairs bathrooms before—" "Put that down," Adrian said, his voice breaking. "Please, just put it down." She set the bucket down. And for the first time in 6 years, she let herself really look at her son. The boy she'd saved. The boy who'd saved her right back. The boy who had no idea what she'd given up so he could stand in this mansion and call it home. You just watched a billionaire discover his adoptive mother working as a maid in his own home. But you don't know how she got there. You don't know what happened in the years between the one-bedroom apartment in South Central and this Bel Air mansion. And you don't know what Adrian is about to do that will change both their lives forever. If you need to understand how love can survive years of silence and pride and pain, if you want to know what happens when the person who gave you everything ends up with nothing, then stay with me. Because this story is about to break your heart and put it back together again. Hit that subscribe button. You're going to need to remember this one. Now let me take you back to the beginning. To the day Loretta Hamilton became his mother. Loretta Hamilton is 58 years old. She works for Elite Domestic Services, a high-end cleaning company that caters to Los Angeles's wealthiest residents. Mansions in Bel Air, Beverly Hills, Pacific Palisades, places where the monthly maintenance budget exceeds what most people make in a year. She cleans their toilets. She scrubs their floors. She dusts their art collections and vacuums their Persian rugs. And she's invisible. That's the job, really. To clean so well that people don't notice you were there. To be so quiet, so efficient, so unremarkable that the owners forget you're a person with a life outside their marble bathrooms. Loretta is good at being invisible. She's had practice. Every morning, she wakes up at 4:30 a.m. in her studio apartment in Inglewood. It's small, just a bed, a kitchenette, a bathroom barely big enough to turn around in. But it's hers. She pays her rent on time. She doesn't ask anyone for help. She hasn't asked for help in 6 years. By 5:30 a.m., she's on the bus, heading to her first job of the day. Elite Domestic Services assigns routes 4 to 6 houses per day, depending on the size and the work required. Today's route has her starting in Pacific Palisades, then moving to 2 houses in Beverly Hills, and ending with a new client in Bel Air. The Bel Air house is a last-minute addition. The regular maid called in sick, and they needed someone to cover. The file says it's a tech executive, mostly traveling, rarely home. Easy job. In and out. Just the way she likes it. She doesn't read the name on the file. That's her first mistake. The Pacific Palisades house belongs to a movie producer and his third wife. They have a Pomeranian named Gucci, who barks at her for 20 minutes before getting bored. She cleans their kitchen, sub-zero refrigerator, marble countertops, a wine fridge that costs more than her car, and she's done by 9 a.m. The first Beverly Hills house is a family with 3 teenagers who apparently don't know what a laundry hamper is. She spends an hour just collecting dirty clothes from various rooms before she can even start cleaning. The second Beverly Hills house is owned by an older couple who are actually kind. They leave her a bottle of water and a sandwich, which she eats in their garden while their gardener trims the hedges into geometric shapes. By 3 p.m., she's tired. Her knees ache. Her back protests every time she bends over, but she has one more house, the Bel Air mansion. The gate code is in the file. She punches it in, and the massive iron gates swing open to reveal a long driveway lined with olive trees. The house is stunning. Modern architecture, floor-to-ceiling windows, a fountain in the circular driveway. This isn't just wealth, this is empire-level money. She parks her 10-year-old Honda Civic next to the fountain and feels suddenly, painfully aware of how out of place she is. But that's the job. She grabs her supplies and lets herself in through the service entrance like the file instructs. The inside is even more impressive. High ceilings, minimalist furniture, art on the walls that probably costs more than she'll make in her lifetime. And it's empty. Silent except for the hum of central air conditioning. She starts with the kitchen. Restaurant-grade appliances. A marble island bigger than her entire apartment. She cleans methodically, efficiently, the way she's done thousands of times before. Then she moves to the living room, the dining room, the home office with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and a desk that looks like it belongs in a CEO's corner office, which it probably does. By the time she starts on the marble floors in the foyer, she's been here 2 hours and hasn't seen a single personal item. No family photos, no clutter, nothing that makes this feel like a home instead of a showroom. Whoever lives here is lonely, she thinks. You can always tell. She's on her knees, scrubbing a stubborn scuff mark from the marble, when she hears the front door open. "Excuse me, could you?" And then everything stops. What Loretta didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that the file in her bag had a name on it. Adrian Blackwell. The same Adrian Blackwell she'd found in the foster system when he was 8 years old. Too smart for his own good, too angry at the world, too convinced that no one would ever want him. The same boy she brought home to her 1-bedroom apartment in South Central LA, even though she was barely making ends meet as a nursing assistant. The same boy she raised alone because his birth mother was in prison and his father was dead, and the system was going to chew him up and spit him out if someone didn't intervene. The same boy she tutored every night after working double shifts. The same boy she scrimped and saved to send to private school because the public schools in their neighborhood were failing their students. The same boy she believed in when no one else did. The same boy who got a full scholarship to MIT at 16. The same boy who built a tech company from his dorm room and became a millionaire by 23. The same boy who became a billionaire by 30. The same boy who stopped calling when success started taking up all his time. Her boy. Standing in his mansion staring at her like she's the ghost, when really, he's the one who disappeared. "Loretta?" His voice cracks. She stands up slowly, her knees protesting, and she sees him really look at her for the first time in 6 years. She knows what he sees. A 58-year-old black woman in a maid's uniform, gray hair pulled back in a tight bun, deep lines around her eyes from years of early mornings and late nights, Hands rough from cleaning solutions and hard work. She used to be beautiful. That's what people told her when she was younger, before life wore her down, before she gave everything to a boy who needed a mother more than she needed anything else. Mr. Blackwell, she says, keeping her voice professional. I didn't realize you'd be home today. I was told you were in San Francisco until... Don't. He steps closer. Don't call me that. Don't. What are you doing here? She gestures to her bucket. Working. Same as anyone else. Working? He looks around like he's seeing his mansion for the first time. You're the new maid? The one the service sent? She nods. How long? His voice is tight, controlled, the way it gets when he's trying not to lose control. She knows that voice. She raised that voice. How long have you been doing this? 6 years. The number hangs in the air between them. 6 years of silence. 6 years of him living this life while she cleaned other people's homes. 6 years of checks she never cashed and phone calls she never made. Ever since what? Adrian demands. Loretta, what happened? I sent you money. Every month for 10 years I never cashed those checks, she says quietly. She watches the words hit him like a physical blow. Why? He whispers. And there it is. The question she's been avoiding for 6 years. Why didn't she cash the checks? Why didn't she call? Why didn't she tell him she lost her nursing job when the hospital downsized? Why didn't she tell him she couldn't find work because she was too old, too tired, too black in an industry that wanted young and white? Why didn't she tell him she was proud of him and heartbroken by him in equal measure? Because you don't owe me anything, she says instead. You never did. That's not. Adrian's voice rises, echoes through the massive foyer. Loretta, you raised me. You sacrificed everything for me. How can you say I don't owe you? Because that's what love is, she interrupts, her voice sharper than she intends. It's not a transaction. I didn't raise you so you'd owe me something. I raised you because you needed a mother and I... She stops, swallows hard. And I needed to be needed. Adrian runs his hand through his hair, that same gesture from when he was a teenager stressed about calculus exams or college applications. So what? He says, and the anger is building now. You just let me think you were fine? You let me believe you were living comfortably while you were scrubbing floors? While you were working as a maid in houses like... He gestures around wildly. In houses like mine? I am fine, Loretta lies, because it's easier than the truth. You're working as a maid, he shouts. You're 58 years old, and you're on your knees cleaning other people's bathrooms. It's honest work, she says calmly. There's no shame in it. I didn't say there was shame in it. His voice breaks. I'm saying you shouldn't have to, God, Loretta. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes, and you're... He can't finish the sentence. She picks up her bucket. I should finish the upstairs. I'm supposed to have this house done by... Put that down. It's not a request. It's the voice of someone used to being obeyed. The CEO voice she's heard in interviews. She sets the bucket down. How did this happen? Adrian asks, his voice quieter now but no less intense. The last time we talked, you were working at Cedars-Sinai. You loved that job. You said you'd probably retire from there. Things change. What things? She looks at him, really looks at him, and she sees the boy who used to sit at their tiny kitchen table doing homework while she worked night shifts. The boy who cried the day she got him his first laptop because no one had ever given him something that expensive before. The boy who promised he'd make her proud. And he did. He made her so proud she could barely breathe sometimes, watching him on TV, reading about his company, seeing him shake hands with presidents and tech moguls. But pride doesn't pay rent, and watching from a distance doesn't heal the hurt of being left behind. Adrian is still waiting for an answer. The hospital downsized, Loretta says finally. 6 years ago, they laid off a third of the staff. I was 52, and suddenly I couldn't find work anywhere. Every hospital, every clinic, every nursing home, they all wanted younger nurses, cheaper nurses. I had 30 years of experience and nobody wanted it. Adrian's face goes pale. Why didn't you tell me? Because you were building an empire, she says. Because you were 26 years old and on the cover of Forbes, and I wasn't going to be the person who pulled you back into, she gestures vaguely, into this, into poverty, into struggle, into everything I raised you to escape. You're not poverty, Adrian says, his voice raw. You're my mother. The word hangs between them. Mother. She's not his biological mother. She's not even his legal adoptive mother. The paperwork was too expensive, and by the time they could afford it, he was already in college, and it didn't seem to matter. But she's the one who raised him. She's the one who sat up with him when he had nightmares. She's the one who taught him to tie his shoes and read and believe in himself. She's his mother in every way that matters. Except for the last 6 years when she hasn't been anything to him, except a name he doesn't talk about. Loretta takes a breath and asks the question that's been burning in her chest. When did you stop calling? Her voice is quiet but steady. Really stop, I mean. Not just getting busy or forgetting. When did you decide you didn't need me anymore? Adrian flinches. I never, Loretta. I didn't stop needing you. I just got busy, she finishes. I know. You had a company to run, investors to impress, a new life to build. That's not fair, isn't it? She meets his eyes. Because, from where I was standing from my studio apartment in Inglewood where I lived alone because my son stopped calling, it felt pretty accurate. I sent money, he says desperately. Every month, I sent. Money isn't love, Loretta says softly. Money doesn't call on birthdays. Money doesn't ask how you're doing or if you're lonely or if you miss the person you used to be before life got hard. Tears are streaming down his face now. I'm sorry, he whispers. God, Loretta, I'm so sorry. I got caught up in everything and I told myself you were fine. I told myself you didn't need me anymore because you were so strong, so independent, and I was just scared, she finishes. Scared that if you looked too close, you'd see how much I was struggling. Scared that if you came back, you'd get pulled back into the life you worked so hard to escape. He nods, unable to speak. So you stayed away, she continues. And I let you, because I was scared too. Scared that if I asked for help, you'd resent me. Scared that I'd become a burden instead of... Her voice breaks. Instead of the person who believed in you when no one else did. Adrian crosses the space between them in 3 long strides and pulls her into his arms. She resists for a moment, pride, habit, 6 years of keeping herself together alone, but then she breaks. She breaks the way she hasn't let herself break in 6 years, and she cries into her son's chest like the scared, tired, lonely woman she's been trying so hard not to be. Here's what destroys me about this moment. It's not the money, it's not even the mansion, or the success, or the empire Adrian built. It's the silence. 6 years of silence between 2 people who loved each other more than anything. 6 years of pride and fear and stubborn independence keeping them apart. And maybe you know what that feels like. Maybe you have someone in your life, a parent, a friend, someone who mattered and the distance grew so slowly you didn't notice until suddenly you couldn't remember the last real conversation you had. Maybe you told yourself they were fine, that they didn't need you, that reaching out would be awkward or unwelcome. But what if they're not fine? What if they're waiting for you to call? Just like you're waiting for them? What if pride is the only thing standing between you and the person you miss most? If this story is making you think of someone you haven't called in too long, maybe it's a sign. Subscribe if you believe some conversations are worth having before it's too late. They stand there in the foyer for a long time, Loretta crying, Adrian holding her like she's something precious that might break. Eventually her tears run dry. She pulls back, wiping her face with the back of her hand, suddenly aware of how she must look. I'm sorry, she says, straightening her uniform. I shouldn't have. This is unprofessional. Stop, Adrian says firmly. Stop apologizing. Stop being professional. You're in my house, Loretta. You're not the maid. You're... He stops, his face shifting as something occurs to him. Wait, how did you end up here? At this house specifically? Did you know it was mine? She shakes her head. The service just gave me an address. I don't usually look at the client names. It was supposed to be a one-time cover for someone who called in sick. So this was what? Coincidence? I guess so. Adrian starts pacing, his mind clearly working through something. Elite Domestic Services, he says. That's the company you work for? She nods. How much do they pay you? Adrian. How much? She tells him. It's barely above minimum wage, and they both know it. His jaw clenches. And you've been doing this for 6 years? Just cleaning houses? It's not just cleaning, she says defensively. It's honest work. It pays my rent. It keeps me barely surviving, he finishes bitterly. While I'm in San Francisco closing deals worth hundreds of millions of dollars. That's not your fault, isn't it? He turns to face her. You lost your job 6 years ago. I've been a billionaire for 2 years. Do the math, Loretta. You were struggling while I was buying my third investment property. I didn't want your charity. It's not charity, he explodes. You're my mother. Taking care of you isn't charity. It's what I should have been doing this whole time. The silence that follows is heavy. Loretta sits down on the bottom step of his grand staircase, suddenly too tired to stand. There's something else, she says quietly. Something I haven't told you. Adrian's face goes still. What? Last year I got sick, she begins. Just a cough at first. Nothing serious, but it wouldn't go away. Finally went to a free clinic in Inglewood. They ran tests. Adrian sits down next to her, his body tense. They found something, she continues. Early stage, treatable, they said. But I'd need surgery and probably chemo. The free clinic gave me referrals to hospitals, payment plans, assistance programs. What kind of something? Adrian's voice is barely a whisper. Breast cancer. The words fall like stones between them. Adrian's breath catches, but Loretta continues before he can interrupt. The surgery alone would have cost $50,000, she says. Even with assistance programs and payment plans, I'd be paying it off for the rest of my life. And I couldn't miss work for chemo. I couldn't afford to lose the income. So, what did you do? Adrian asks, and she can hear the fear in his voice. I got lucky, she says. I found a clinical trial at UCLA. Experimental treatment, all costs covered in exchange for being part of their research. I did 6 months of treatment last year, and it worked. They caught it early enough. I'm in remission now. She feels Adrian's body start to shake next to her. You had cancer, he says slowly. You went through surgery and chemo, alone. And why didn't you tell me? Because you would have dropped everything, she says simply. You would have come running back, put your life on hold, tried to fix everything, and I didn't want to be the reason you... I had a right to know, Adrian's voice cracks. You don't get to make that decision for me. You don't get to go through cancer alone because you're trying to protect my career. You're right, she says quietly. I'm sorry. He drops his head into his hands. God, Loretta, what else? What else haven't you told me? That's it, she promises. That's everything. They sit in silence on the steps of his grand staircase, this boy she raised, and this life she's no longer part of, stretching out around them. Finally, Adrian speaks. I'm not leaving you again, he says. I don't care what you say or how independent you want to be. I'm not. I can't. He can't finish the sentence. But Loretta understands what he means. Let me tell you something about pride. That stubborn, fierce independence that makes you say, I'm fine when you're drowning, it can kill you. Not always literally, though in Loretta's case, it almost did. But it kills relationships. It kills connection. It kills the possibility of being loved the way you deserve to be loved. Loretta went through cancer alone because she was too proud to ask for help. Because she'd spent her whole life being the strong one, the caretaker, the person others leaned on. And she forgot that strength isn't refusing help. Strength is knowing when to accept it. Maybe you're carrying something heavy right now. Maybe you're struggling, and everyone thinks you're fine because you've gotten so good at pretending. Maybe you think asking for help makes you weak, or a burden, or less than. But what if the people who love you are waiting for permission to help? What if they're desperate to carry some of your weight and you won't let them? Subscribe if you're learning like Loretta did that letting people love you is just as important as loving them. Because some burdens were never meant to be carried alone. Adrian stands up abruptly. Pack your things. Loretta blinks. What? Your apartment. Pack your things. You're moving in here. Today. Adrian, I can't just... Yes, you can. He's already pulling out his phone. I'll send movers to your place tomorrow, but tonight, you're staying here. Guest room is upstairs, second door on the left. It has its own bathroom, a walk-in closet, a view of... I'm not moving into your house, she interrupts. He stops mid-sentence. Why not? Because I don't need to be taken care of like some charity case you're trying to make yourself feel better about? That's not what this is, isn't it? She stands up, facing him. You feel guilty because you didn't know I was struggling. So now you want to fix it by throwing money at the problem. Put me up in your mansion. Maybe give me an allowance. Make sure I'm comfortable. Yes, Adrian interrupts. Yes, I want to make sure you're comfortable. I want to make sure you never have to scrub another floor or worry about rent or go through cancer treatment alone. Is that so wrong? It is if you're doing it out of guilt instead of... She stops. Instead of what? Adrian presses. Instead of actually wanting me in your life, she finishes quietly. Because there's a difference between feeling obligated to take care of me and actually wanting me around. The hurt that crosses his face is so acute she almost takes the words back. You think I don't want you in my life? He asks, his voice barely above a whisper. I think you built a life without me in it, she says. And that's okay. That's what I wanted for you to be successful, independent, free from everything I represented. But you can't just decide 6 years later that I fit into this world you've created. Why not? Because I don't, she says simply. Look around, Adrian. This mansion, your billionaire friends, your tech empire. I'm a 58-year-old woman who cleans houses for a living. I don't belong here. You belong wherever I am, Adrian says fiercely. You're my mother. That doesn't change because I have money now. That doesn't change because time passed. That doesn't change ever. She wants to believe him. God, she wants to believe him so badly. But she spent 6 years learning not to need him. 6 years building a life where she doesn't wait for phone calls that don't come or birthday cards that arrive a week late. I need to think, she says finally. Adrian nods, though she can see it costs him. Okay, think. But while you're thinking, you're staying here. At least for tonight. Please. It's the please that does it. Okay, she agrees. One night. The guest room is bigger than her entire apartment. Loretta stands in the doorway, taking in the king-size bed with its ridiculous thread count, the sitting area with a view of the city lights, the bathroom with a soaking tub and heated floors. This is where Adrian's guests stay. Important people. Business associates. Maybe women he's dating. Though she doesn't know anything about his personal life anymore. She doesn't know anything about his life at all. She sits on the edge of the bed, and her phone buzzes. A text from her supervisor at Elite Domestic Services. How'd the Bel Air house go? Client approved for regular weekly service if you're interested. She stares at the message for a long moment. Then she hears a knock on the door. Come in, she calls. Adrian enters carrying a tray. I made dinner. Well, I ordered dinner. From that Italian place you used to love in Little Ethiopia. I didn't know if they're still around, but I found something similar, and... He stops, seeing her face. What's wrong? She shows him the text. He reads it, and something hardens in his expression. You're not going back there, he says flatly. Adrian. I'm not telling you what to do, he interrupts. I'm telling you what I'm doing. Tomorrow I'm calling Elite Domestic Services and terminating their contract. Then I'm calling every contact I have in LA and making sure they know that Loretta Hamilton is not available for domestic work, ever. 2. You can't just... Watch me. He sets the tray down. You want independence? Fine. I'll set up an account in your name. Enough to live on comfortably. You want to work? I'll help you find something in nursing again, or something new, whatever you want. But you're not cleaning houses. Not anymore. Because you're ashamed of it? She challenges. Because you deserve better, he says simply. And I should have made sure you had better 6 years ago. They stare at each other across the beautiful guest room. Eat, he says finally, gesturing to the tray. We'll figure out the rest tomorrow. He turns to leave. Adrian? He stops at the door. Thank you, she says quietly, for caring, even if I don't know how to let you yet. His smile is sad. I've got time. I've got all the time in the world. He closes the door softly behind him. And Loretta is alone in a mansion, holding a plate of expensive Italian food, crying for the second time today. Loretta didn't sleep much that night. The bed was too soft, the room too quiet, and her mind wouldn't stop spinning. By 5 a.m., She gave up and showered in the bathroom with heated floors and a rainfall shower head that probably cost more than a month of her rent. When she came downstairs at 6, Adrian was already in the kitchen. "You're up early," she said. "So are you," he gestured to the coffee pot. "I remember you take it black with 1 sugar." He remembered. They sat at his kitchen island and drank coffee in silence. "I have a board meeting at 9, Adrian said finally, "but I cleared my whole schedule after that. I want to show you something. Will you wait?" She nodded. 3 hours later, they were in Adrian's Tesla, heading toward South Central LA. They pulled up to a building she recognized, a community center where she used to volunteer when Adrian was in high school. It looked different now, newer, expanded. Inside, the place was transformed. New computers, new furniture, kids everywhere, after-school programs, tutoring sessions, art classes. A woman approached them. "Mr. Blackwell, right on time." She turned to Loretta. "And you must be Loretta. Adrian's told me so much about you." "This is Denise Chen," Adrian explained, "director of the Hamilton Learning Center." Loretta's breath caught. "The what?" "The Hamilton Learning Center," Denise repeated, "named after the woman who saved Adrian's life." Adrian took her hand. "I started this foundation 3 years ago. It funds after-school programs, tutoring, college prep for kids in foster care or from low-income families. We're in 15 cities now." "Why didn't you tell me?" Loretta whispered. "Because I was a coward," he admitted. "Every kid who gets a scholarship through this foundation, that's because of you. Because you showed me what sacrifice looks like." Tears streamed down her face. "I want you to run the LA branch," Adrian said. "Denise is moving to the national office, and I can't think of anyone better to work with these kids than the woman who worked with me. I don't know anything about running a—" "You know everything that matters," he interrupted. "You know what these kids need because you gave it to me. And you know how to love people who think they're unlovable." She looked around at the kids' black and brown faces who looked like Adrian did at that age. "It pays a real salary," Adrian added. "Benefits, retirement, everything. And it's not charity, it's a job. You'd be working hard. These kids will need you." "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "Because I want you in my life," Adrian said simply. "Not as someone I send checks to. I want you the way you used to be, where I can call you after a hard day or ask your advice about things I'm scared of." He squeezed her hand. "I need you. Not because I'm trying to fix my guilt, but because you make me better. You always have." Loretta took the job. Not because Adrian offered it, but because those kids needed someone to believe in them the way she believed in Adrian. And she moved into the mansion. Slowly, over months, it became home. Not because it's beautiful or expensive, but because Adrian's there. Her son is there. And after 6 years of distance, they're learning how to be family again. Here's what we can learn from their story. Sometimes the people we love need permission to love us back. They need us to be vulnerable enough to admit we're struggling, humble enough to accept help, brave enough to let them in. Loretta spent 6 years being too proud to ask for help, too independent to admit she was drowning, too scared to let Adrian see her struggle, and she almost lost him forever because of it. If this story reminded you that accepting love isn't weakness, it's courage, then maybe it's time to let the people who love you actually help. Subscribe if you believe family isn't just about who raised you, but about who shows up when it matters. Because sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is letting them love you back. 5 years later, the Hamilton Learning Center serves over 10,000 kids across 20 cities. Loretta runs the LA branch, working with kids who remind her of Adrian, brilliant, scared, convinced the world has nothing for them. And she gets to prove them wrong every single day. They have dinner together twice a week. He calls her every Sunday. And when he travels, he sends pictures with the caption, "Wish you were here." And every time someone asks Adrian about the Hamilton Learning Center, he says the same thing. "It's named after my mother, the woman who saved my life." Not his adoptive mother, not the woman who raised him, just my mother. And that's all she ever wanted to be. This is the story of Loretta Hamilton and Adrian Blackwell. A mother and son separated by pride and silence, reunited by a chance encounter in a Bel Air mansion. He chose love, not with money or guilt, but with presence and honesty. The kind Loretta gave him all those years ago. and the kind he finally learned to give back.